With everyone playing comps like True Damage and Spellweavers, Country Reroll has gone under the radar for quite some time. If you want to play uncontested, then this is the comp for you. Let's break it down. You want to start the early game with a country headliner Tahm Kench, then follow up with a Katarina if possible. However, if you don't get a country headliner, then play whatever you can find. Your main goal for the early game is to play your strongest board and play around any country units you find. Corki and Jinx are good item holders for Samira, and any melee carry like Yasuo and Gnar can hold items for Urgot. The early game is the most high variance part of the game, so try to be flexible and stick it out until the mid game. Now in the mid game, things become a lot more focused. No matter what you played early game, this is the board you want to get to. When played with a country headliner, this will give you 5 country plus tons of splash traits. This board often caps out at level 7 or 8, as you're better off going for multiple 3 stars rather than pushing levels. Samira, Urgot, Vex, Amumu, and Set can all be 3-starred. In this comp, Vex, Samira, and Urgot can all function as the main carry, so your top priority is to focus on whichever one you have the most items for, then work your way from there. I recommend slow rolling at level 7 until you have 5 to 6 copies of a unit, then roll down to 0 to hit your 3-star. Once you hit, you can choose to continue going for more 3-stars or push levels. This will depend on several factors, so ask yourself these questions to decide. 1. Am I close to hitting another 3-star? Or 2. Am I low on health and desperate to power spike? If you're close to hitting another 3-star, then stay the path and keep looking. But if you're low on health, you're likely playing for every placement you can get, and you should level to play more units. This board is strongest with at least 2 3-stars, 1 frontliner and 1 backliner, but the more you can hit, the better you'll do. Now whether you hit multiple 3-stars or decided to push levels after you got your carry, you want to round out your board in later levels by adding any 2-star legendaries you can find. Who you want to add really depends on who you hit, but any choice is good. Lucian shreds armor, while Ziggs shreds magic resistance with their spells. If you have an extra Shojin or Ginsus to spare, then Sona provides huge scaling in longer fights. Yorick and Alawi are generic, great frontliners. The last solid option is Qiyana if you can manage to splash in 2 true damage. Her bling bonus allows her to farm components for your team, which will help you scale well into the late game. The easiest choices to slot in are Yorick and Alawi, as they require minimal setup with small investments. But if you can afford to spare the extra items, then Qiyana and Sona provide the highest potential the longer the game goes on. From here, items, augments, and positioning will determine who takes first, so let's break that down. For damage items, there's 3 sets that work in this comp. Samira's 3 best items are Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, and Giant Slayer, so you'll need a ton of swords. For Urgot, you want bow-centered items. Red Buff, Giant Slayer, Last Whisper, and Runan's Hurricane are all excellent, but Urgot is more flexible and can also play QSS and Edge of Night. To make it simple, sword items for Samira and bow items for Urgot. Just remember, you don't need 2 Last Whispers, and Urgot has an AoE spread, so he's the best holder. Lastly, Vex wants Deathcat, Morello, and Adaptive Helm or Blue Buff. This is excellent as she can absorb any unwanted rods and tears you might get. Now, tank items are fairly straightforward. Warmogs, Redemption, Dragon's Claw, Bramble Vest, and Steadfast are excellent choices. Just play whatever you can, making sure to focus on your carry items first. Extra items should be centered on anything you need but couldn't get. For example, Even Shroud is good when you can't make Last Whisper. Sunfire is great when you can't make Morello. Lastly, Ginsu's and Shojin is big on Sona in the late game. Now let's talk about augments. Three's a Crowd is the best in slot augment for this comp as it provides a ton of health for the team. Jeweled Lotus is a huge damage boost, just make sure not to build any crit items when playing this. Heroic Grab Bag is a desperate option, but excels if you can hit multiple 3-stars. Frequent Flyer is excellent when going for multiple 3-stars and you do not want to push levels. Remember your roots provides great stats for the entire team so long as you have a country headliner. March of Progress is a best in slot augment for any 3-cost reroll comps. You get to level 7 fast and sit at level 7 and 8 for a long time, so you're bound to hit units. A Cut Above is a deathblade that generates free gold. You should always take this for Samira. Generally speaking, for positioning, you're going to keep the same position for most fights. Thresh should be in the same corner as enemy backline to fish for hooks. Amumu should be closer to the center to try and AoE stun as many units as possible. Urgot should be just behind the front line so his cone attacks hit as many units as possible. Finally, Samira should sit in the corner hitting the same unit as Urgot, while Vex sits closer to the center. Her spell is an AoE stun, so you want her hitting as many units as possible. If you play Qiyana, try to place her in front of an item holder so she can farm components for you. Now defensively, you just want to avoid backline Akali dives and thresh hooks. If you're fighting Akali, put your stronger carry closer to the center while the other sits in the corner. You can also use Alawi's tentacles late game to bait Akali off of your carries. Her tentacles are also useful to bait out other spells like Caitlyn ult, Lux ult by having the tentacle on the opposite side of the enemy carry while your carries are on the same side as them. Did this guide help? Leave a comment and tell me how you do. Until next time, I'm Swagadelic.